This is my first book review for the channel, and it's fitting that it's for a fellow YouTuber. Initially, when I got into YouTube, I was like, dude, bro, I'm going to be like teaching people about money and finance, and it's going to go all, it's going to be chill. And then I realized it's a hyper competitive market. Most of them are degenerate scum, and what I already know is sufficient. I don't really have to keep hyping the same stuff. Where Christopher Bell, or Strongman Personal Finance, comes in, he's actually a very entertaining person. I should have had it start with he really has a good sound effects thing. He's better than Jim Cramer on his audio thing. But anyhow, because I enjoyed watching his YouTube series and he made it worthwhile to watch, I did buy his book, which is another thing I would recommend purchasing. Fix Yourself, Stop Being a Broke Loser by Christopher Bell. He starts it off with having the proper mindset, because a lot of people just see that money is burning a hole in their wallet. They don't think long term. They're thinking, what are they going to do this weekend, not what are they going to do 30 years from now. And so you really want to have the proper mindset. Another thing is also cash flow management. That was another thing that he talked about quite extensively, is making sure you have an understanding of where your money's coming and going and all that. And he also talked about risk mitigation with insurance. Uh, and it's good there because there can be some decent insurance. There can be a lot of scummy, exploitive, almost financial annuity insurance and all that too, but it's just good to take a look at it and stuff. Don't invest like a dude, bro, but like, 10x on Tesla, man, and crypto, all this digital stuff, decentralized currency. That's where it's all at. It's not like they can do pump and dumps with any of that stuff. It's all like legit, and it's where all the rich guys are gonna be, man. You know, but he doesn't invest like that. I don't invest like that either. I think it's good to go with the Boglehead approach. He is a true Boglehead warrior, seeking truth, justice, in the American way. I'm a big Boglehead fan too. I think they're one of the few reputable, legitimate groups out there for financial investing. Um, but there's so much of the hype and so much of the media attention goes to the dude bro, like, yeah, man, day trading, and all this financial garbage. It's just myopic profiteering and manipulation of the stock market. It's basically fraud. But big corporate fat cats do it, and then even the Wall Street bets dudes do it. So I mean, everybody's getting a cut of that action. So that's don't invest like a dude, bro. He also recommends IRAs and 401ks, at least contributing to the match amount, and those are good, and that's really a good tax-free deferment for income. I really respect what he had to say about children and marriage. Get married to have children, always get a prenup. But if you're not going to want kids, and I don't want any kids at all, I don't see me ever engaging in state-sanctioned marriage. Um, and then it also says that kids don't have to cost 250 grand. That there's more affordable ways to raise children and to do that. And that whole perspective was good because so many people are just delusional, especially with the marriage thing. They're like, it's my special day, and I'm going to have a $50,000+ wedding, and I'm going to be the ultimate bridezilla, and all this stuff. And, you know, it's just, I think a lot of people are waking up to a lot of the delusional scams and the craziness of a lot of the culture. Because if I were to say two things that were lifestyle torpedoes, would be having kids you can't afford and going to college with student loans. Those two things are pretty much you're sentenced to life in prison with either one of those if you mess it up. Because the other things, you just blow money on your wedding, you could probably recover from that. The divorce is going to ruin you in a lot of ways. It's just like having a kid. And he also talks about how student loans are trash, like community college and other avenues are more economical, and actually major in something that you're going to make money in or that has any sort of logical reasoning to it instead of just um, totally worthless stuff. I got a business associate's degree, but I got it for debt. I got it debt free. So I it worked out for me, but I never went on beyond the community college. It just the return on investment wasn't really justified, and the quality of jobs that I got now versus what my bachelor's degree in business would uh, would be about the same. I don't really see much more upward mobility with that. He talks about how using credit cards can help build a good credit score. And then Dave Ramsey was crying in the corner and just sad. And like, cash only. And I dig Dave Ramsey too. I don't watch a lot of his stuff because I think he's kind of this right wing, abusive psychopath a bit. Really good message overall. But I mean, there's some crazy stories about Dave and his power tripping escapades. So hopefully, me saying that doesn't get me kicked off YouTube. But anyhow, that was my thing with credit cards here. The thing that I did have some issues with, and I think there could be some expansion on, and it's not really much of an issue, but he says ditch the house with the white picket fence. Um, and that's interesting. I am a big fan of owner-occupied duplexes. I think that getting into small multifamily rentals are worthwhile from an asset allocation standpoint, an equity building standpoint, and a cash flow standpoint. It can be more of a pain in the ass than an index fund, but I think that the upward potential, the tax breaks, the risk mitigation, and also the land use efficiency are all worthwhile avenues to go. So I didn't see anything about multifamily properties in there in owner occupancy, but he did have valid points. I also think that for a lot of people, your first home should be your last home. So my duplex, unless I find this really phenomenal deal on another duplex or something, I'm not going to leave this place, and I'm not going to buy another place probably. I mean, I could buy another one if it lined up right, but you look at the transaction costs and the fees and all the other stuff associated with it, and it's just really kind of hard to justify. But, I think a lot of people are like, we need the right house, the McMansion, in the right school district, and it has to have a hot tub, it has to have a walk-in wine cooler, it has to have, like, just these um, ridiculous demands that just enslave people to debt and unaffordability. But that's kind of the American culture in general, with how exploitive and toxic a majority of it is. It's a predator state for its citizens. Instead of lifting them up and empowering them, it wants to beat them down and exploit them. So, there we go with that. Cars are your enemy. And I think that's interesting. As I've owned cars and I've not. I have a whole channel about diecast, and I basically make it work with public transport. There's communal car kind of sharing things and rides and stuff. And I'm right off a bus route, and one of the few bus routes in Iowa. So it works out from an accessibility standpoint. But you just look at people who are like, dude, I got me an F-150 with a flamethrower and gold-plated grill and leather power seats, and so many of these vehicles, man, they're just like, um, especially the trucks. I could go on a whole thing, and I probably will at some point on soccer mom SUVs that just happen to have a storage thing in the back. It's like all the trucks have become basically Chevy Avalanches, and nobody makes cars hardly at all outside of Honda and Toyota, because the fuel standards are so high and all that. But then the secondary market's all screwed up right now with the chip shortage, and I think that the car makers are going to be pretty much a cartel and jack the prices up and really make automobile affordability and accessibility a lot harder in the future. And they're all going to run on sunshine and rainbows because we're going to kill the internal combustion engine too. That'll probably all happen. Hopefully this has been a fairly good review. Just have to add in some Mr. Bell's sound effects here, because I know I've kind of gone on tangents and that with it, but it's been interesting. I love what he has to say about financial people. He actually was a financial advisor at one point, but then he realized they're degenerate, scummy, evil, crooked, bad guys that he needed to fire. There's a couple, I think, that are fee only that might be legitimate, but there's so many of them that just shake people down for money and take away so much of their potential upside earning potential for the money because the fees are so high. because the products are below market. If you just try to match the market, that's much better than trying to beat the market. And if you start beating the market in some ways, could that be insider trading? If your dude bro financial guy actually knows that stuff. But why would he be coming to you? And anyhow, that opens a whole other can of worms. The last thing that I'll say is about the health and wellness aspect. I thought that was pretty good when you talked about that. And then also joining the military. For me, that was something that I was really on the fence on. And part of me is always like, oh, should I have done it or not? And I went to Boy State when I was in high school. My grandfather was very high up in the Legion. He was a World War II vet. And I was actually the only one of my cousins to actually go to Boy State. It was pretty eye-opening. I ended up getting gas in a gas chamber with tear gas, and there was a lot of other bonding experiences that we had for that week there. But what I would have done, and he actually had the same thing. He was in the Army. He said he probably should have joined the Air Force. And that's what I was really on the fence about, because I could have worked at the defense contractor that my dad worked at and gotten into the IBEW union that represents a majority of the workers there. He wasn't union, he was in the professional side. But the guys who manufacture it in the warehouse or the factory were all union. And you do a year there, you get in, then you enlist in the Air Force. You got 5 years, plus you'd get an associate's degree in electrical engineering technology, all paid for by Uncle Sam and the experience, and it adds to your seniority. So you come back with 6 years seniority, higher pay grade. You could probably make 80 grand out the gate once you got out of the military and did that. And hopefully in the Air Force it would have been golfing, swimming, and bowling. That would have been, because their bases are really, really nice compared to a lot of the other guys. And so I do have mixed feelings about it. I would have liked to have done that. But part of me wonders, would my interest in that have been selfless, or would it have been selfish for the benefits? And then also, I really don't feel that Iraq war was a justified war, and I felt that for years. I could see Afghanistan and some of that, but that would be a whole nother video in and of itself. But the benefits and the GI Bill being forever and that, and FDR really pushed for the GI Bill. That was kind of one of his last things before he passed, but it got passed unanimously, and it helped both my grandparents, and it really kind of helped build the post-war middle class by giving those guys those opportunities. And then you could also say, well, could AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, and the military all give young people opportunities in that? And you could say, what about a draft and mandatory service of some sort to the country? I have really mixed feelings about that, because I think people should be able to live free and do as they please once they're 18 and out of the K through 12 prison. But most people I don't think appreciate and respect America and the opportunities that we have, and a lot of that stuff, and that could give them more experiences and more avenues of appreciation. But I don't know, it's just kind of interesting there, and I really appreciate Mr. Bell again. I'd recommend you like, subscribe, and share this video, and do the same with Strongman Personal Finance. And the guy's like half naked half the time, just like flexing his pecs and doing all kinds of stuff. Would it surprise me if he'd be riding around on a unicycle, juggling and having a monkey, I don't know, with a flamethrower or something in the background? Because he's an out there dude. He's pretty cool though. I dig it, and hopefully he digs this review on his thing. And shoo!